Hi everyone, Jim from Ohio here, and I've been finding myself out in my pole barn a lot more frequently now that I've started working out there. And there are always times that it seems I need to access the internet for something. Now we do plan on using our pole barn later on for a recreation room. I do plan on using it as my YouTube video studio. And I'm going to do a lot of woodworking out here, and occasionally I like to go to the internet to look to see what other people are doing or download plans, various things. But in any case, I need to access the internet from my pole barn, and unfortunately the internet comes into my house on the opposite side of the house than where the pole barn is located. So my Wi-Fi signal inside of the house doesn't make it out into the pole barn. Now on top of that, it is a metal building. So being a metal building, it has some shielding, and that's probably helping and blocking the signal. So what I decided to do was upgrade my Wi-Fi within my house to a mesh network. Now a mesh network is just when you have more than one router or Wi-Fi device in your house, and they're synchronized together to act as one. So you can go from one part of the house to the other part of the house, and your devices will actually drop the signal with the router in one end of the house and automatically reconnect to the router in the other end of the house seamlessly, as if they were one router. Now, the router that I picked up, as I mentioned, it is a mesh router system, and I'm using an ASUS device, and this is simply a dual band gigabit router. I went with the gigabit router so that I can take advantage of all of the bandwidth that I have from my cable company, and I think I've got a 300 megabit circuit that comes from Spectrum. So what I did was I connected one of these devices in my basement where my internet comes into the house, and I connected this one in my dining room, which is the opposite end of the house. And within the house, the signal was outstanding, and I could get signal in my garage too. But as soon as I came out to the pole barn, once again, I had no signal out here. So what I needed to do was figure out a way to get my internet from, as I mentioned, from the house out to the pole barn. And there's actually several different ways that you can do that. Now, you can get a Wi-Fi extender. That's probably the least expensive device that's available for doing this. But in my case, a Wi-Fi extender did not work or would not work because I don't have a Cat 5 or Cat 6 cable that is going from my house over to the pole barn. And I really don't have a way to run one. That's why I was hoping that the mesh router would create a signal strong enough to make it over here, but unfortunately it just wouldn't. Now when I moved that mesh router into my garage, I got a very, very weak signal, but it wasn't enough to stream. We do plan on having a big screen TV out in the pole barn once we have the rec room set up, and we'll probably have friends over watching a football game out here at some point. So I do need to make sure that I've got the highest speed connection available, or at least a connection that's high speed enough that I can stream from my home internet out into the pole barn. So there are actually a few different ways that you can go about doing this. Now, one of my internet buddies, Seth, over at Seth Craft, he also has a channel that he does a lot of work with, not wind turbines, the micro hydro turbines. Anyway, he posted a video a few weeks back of how he got internet out to his pole barn, and what he did, he used a system that's called a bridge. And I'll place a link to his video down below, so if you have that situation, you can follow his instructions, and he created a very good video, very informative, and he shows you exactly how you can do that. Now, a bridge is a device that sends a signal from one building to another building over a large distance. And in my situation, I don't really have a large distance. Now with a bridge, as long as you have line of sight, you can send a signal an extremely long distance, probably a mile or more, depending on the variety of internet bridge that you have. Now, my bridge would not work in my situation. Well, it probably would, but it would have been overkill. The bridge devices cost several $100s, and basically it's an antenna that you hook up to your Wi-Fi router in your house, and you point it either out a window or you mount it on the outside of your building. And on the building that you want to get the internet to, you connect a separate second antenna, and you point the two antennas directly towards each other, as I mentioned, line of sight. And as long as they have a line of sight, you'll get that signal, and it will be a very good high-speed connection. Now, in my situation, my house is literally 10 feet from my pole barn, so I didn't really need to send that signal a great distance. And because of where my internet is coming into my house, that's where the antenna would be, and I really didn't have a good line of sight to my pole barn without extending a Cat5 cable all the way from one end of my house to the other, and then I'd only be sending the signal across the bridge 10 feet. So I looked into other options, and what I found was a device that's known as a Powerline network extender. And the one that I decided to go with was the TPLink model. And I'll put a link down below in this video where you can find one of these on Amazon for yourself. And they have a couple different varieties available. This happens to be an AV2000, which supports up to 2 gigabytes. Now my Wi-Fi router only does 1 gig, but this does 2 gig. And the reason I went with this is because what this device does is it allows you to plug, you get two different pieces with this. You get a device that looks like this, and you actually get two of these. And they're identical. It doesn't matter which one you use on either end. But what this does is it simply plugs into your home electrical system, and then on the bottom of it, it has a Cat5 cable connection. So you run a cable from your Wi-Fi router into one of these. It doesn't matter which one you go to. And then by it simply plugged into your electrical system in your house, what it does is it sends that internet signal through your electrical wiring. And you can plug another one of these either anywhere in your house or even in another building, as long as both buildings are on the same electrical circuit. And in my situation, I have a main panel in my house, and it's connected to a sub panel in my garage. So I have the same electrical circuit for both places. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this device into my pole barn, and that signal, the network signal, should go through the electrical wires in my house and come over to this device, where I'll then plug in, I can plug any device that can connect to the network or the internet into here. But in my situation, I'm going to plug my second mesh router over here, and that should give me Wi-Fi all throughout my pole barn. So let's go ahead and get started and give this a try. Now, the reason that I went with the 2 gigabyte device as opposed to the 1 is it's my understanding that when you're sending a signal through your electrical wiring, that is a very lossy system. So it's not like a Cat5 cable or a Cat6 cable, or it's not like that bridge router that Seth hooked up in his location. So in those situations, you're not going to lose any signal. The signal is going to be just as strong. Since I have 300 megabits in my house, in my barn, I would have 300 megabits as well. I don't expect that to happen with this device because it is a lossy device, but I'm hoping to have at least enough bandwidth left over so that I can stream, as I mentioned. And this 2 gigabit model actually has more filtering built into it, so I should get a cleaner signal, meaning higher bandwidth over on this side. So once again, let's go ahead and hook this puppy up and see what it does, if it works at all. Okay, before we get started, I've got my iPad here, and you can see right here that it shows my Wi-Fi is not connected. And so if I click on my Wi-Fi, I know I've got a lot of reflection here. What it's doing now is it's scanning for networks. Let me try to get rid of some of this glare. And so this is what's going on. So this is my home router system, and it's not picking up my 5G band, it's only picking up my 2G band. And you can see I'm getting, well, it just lost that connection, but I had just one little bar of signal. It was not enough signal for me to connect out here. Whenever I tried connecting, here it is, it just popped back up. Whenever I try connecting to that, it just fails. And so that's why it's not connected. Normally it would connect automatically to that. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to increase that. We're going to try to fix it and see what we can do. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this unit into an electrical connection. I'm just going to put it here for right now. Eventually, if everything works, this will be mounted somewhere in a central point in my barn. But I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. But before doing so, I want to point out on the side of it, it does have a button that says pair. And these, you do have to pair these units to each other. But if you buy two in the same box, they come pre-paired together. And then there's 3 LED lights. The top one's going to be the power light. I expect it to come on as soon as we plug it in. The second one is looks like a little home. I imagine that one will light up if it does see a network connection coming through the wiring. And then the bottom one is a network, which we probably won't see that one light up unless we plug anything into the bottom of this. So let's go ahead and plug it in and we'll watch. And as expected, the top light came on. That's the power light. And okay, so the second light just came on and it is green. So that tells me that it does see this other device that's identical to this in my house. Now, as I mentioned, these connect virtually the same on both sides. So in my house, I have one of these plugged into the wall, and my main Wi-Fi router that looks just like that is plugged into the one inside of the house. And so that's my main one, and this will be the secondary one. So what I'm going to do now is let's go ahead and first I'm going to plug power into my Wi-Fi router. So I've got a power light here now, but I'm probably not going to see any kind of signal on that. Now, on the back of these devices, these are where you can plug hardware or hardwire any devices into those yellow ports. The blue port is the uplink port on this, so that's where I'm going to plug my Cat5 cable. So we'll just go ahead and plug that in here, and then the other side of this cable will simply go into either port on this device. So here we go. And now, so I do have another light that just lit up, meaning it saw a connection between here. I did get another light here. So all 3 lights came on and all 3 of them are green. Now, it does take a few minutes for a device like this to boot up. And I imagine what will happen is once it does boot up, we should probably have one or both of these LEDs should illuminate. And I do have some flickering going on here, which tells me this router is communicating. It's getting a signal from something. So it just stopped, and now it went solid. Well, it's flashing again. And now what these two lights are, this is my 2 gigabit network, and this is the 5 gigabit or gigahertz network, because this is a dual band router. So I'm going to go ahead over to my iPad. Okay, well, both of these just illuminated, so that tells me that this device is now sending a signal on both bands. So let's go look at the iPad now and see if we have any activity. And I'm just going to... Okay, so now it does look like it sees the 5G signal, and I do have full fidelity, full signal. I've got all the bars there. Now this 2G one, I'm assuming that that's probably still the signal from the house, that it hasn't dropped. So I don't know why we're not getting anything there yet, but let's go back. Okay, so it looks like the signal is increasing on that, so I don't know if it has tried to connect to the router that's over there, but let's go ahead and tell it to connect to the 5G connection, which it didn't even see before. So it did connect. And I'm showing Wi-Fi over here now. And so let's do this. I'm going to go out to my internet, and let's go ahead and just do a speed test. Speed test. And there's a couple different ones. We'll do the Ookla speed test. I think that's the one most people are familiar with. So I do have a Spectrum connection here, and let's go ahead and just click go on there and see what kind of speed we're getting. Now, okay, well, we're nowhere near our 300 megabit per second that we have inside of the house. So we're a little over, looks like about 42 was the average, which is more than enough to stream. I'm happy with that. It's a lot better than no signal at all, which is what I was getting earlier. And upload, looks like upload is 10.75. So I'm going to go ahead and call this a success. Now, as far as I could try to get that higher. I'm not sure what I would do with this particular device to try to get that signal higher. But if for some reason 42 megabit per second doesn't work for streaming, I could always go with the option that Seth went with and upgrade it to a bridge connection. But as I mentioned, those bridge devices are a few $100s, depending on which model you get, where these devices, you can get a pair of them in a box like what I have here, the TP-Link. I think I paid, I think it was about $75 for this. It might have been less. I know that Black Friday and Cyber Monday just ended, and I probably could have picked one up during that period for around $50, but I'll post a link down below, and you're welcome to hunt around and find where you can get one of these. But I'm going to give it a thumbs up. It appeared to work. I've got signal out here now. Next thing to do is to bring the television out and try to stream something. Well, I guess I could do that on my iPad as well. But yeah, we'll give that a try, and hopefully things will work. But thanks for watching, and if you learned anything here, please give me a thumbs up and like this video. This is Jim with Jim Jenny Ohio, and we'll catch up with you in another video. Take care now. Bye-bye.